come out of executive session.
Is there a second?
Second by Dave Harden.
Second by Mr. Harden. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The town council is back in session at 8:33 p.m. Mrs. Dancho.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we proceed as discussed in executive session on item 4.1.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Perillo. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. On to agenda item 5. 5.1 is tabled items. 5.1.1 will remain on the table. 5.2 is tabled ordinances and resolutions. There are none. 5.3 is tabled appointments. Mrs. Mayor, I don't believe there's any tabled appointments. No tabled appointments. 5.3.1 will also stay on the table. We're on to item 6, ordinances and resolutions. Item 6.1.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance and resolution 6.1 appropriating $13,660,700 for various public improvements in the capital CIP program for the fiscal year 2018 and 2019.
And that the second reading be dispensed with.
And that the second reading be dispensed with as stated.
Is there a second?
Second, Dave Harden.
Second by Mr. Harden. Is there any discussion? Yes. Mr. Kadim.
It sounded like you said 13, you meant
13,660,000.
$14.
You have the, yep,
Right, it was
right off that.
passed out earlier.
All good.
You have it? Yeah, okay. Any further discussion? Mr. Khan.
In the CIP book that we received, along with the town budget, does that contain the 13,660 or the 14,797?
Mr. Timniak, can you answer Mr. Khan's question, please?
So the CIP book contains the $14 million. The numbers back down to the $13 million you see in front of you because that's what the bonding ordinance is going to be. You guys are still voting on the $14 million package, but the bonding ordinance, which has been amended with the schedule, is what's to be published in the newspaper because that's the actual amount we're going to go out to bond. In the $14 million number is the WPCA amount, and then it's also got the LoCIP money in there, which we don't actually go out to bond for that. That's just a capital improvement, which we have to list for the state.
So if you back out those two figures, you get to the 13,600?
Yes.
Thank you, Chris.
Any further discussion? Hey, this is also an ordinance, so it'll be a roll call vote. Mr. Pia.
I vote aye.
Or does this have to be a roll call, just a motion to amend? Okay, the motion to amend is first. That's not the ordinance part. So all those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Pia.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to make a motion to postpone ordinance 6.1 to a date certain, being the annual budget meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kadim. Is there any discussion? Okay, so that just means we're going to be voting on this at the town budget meeting like we always do every year. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. On to 6.2.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to amend ordinance agenda item. Oh, sorry. I'd like to make a motion to amend agenda item 6.2, an ordinance authorizing the issuance of $13,660,700 of bonds of the town to meet the appropriation for various public improvements in the capital CIP program for fiscal year 2018 to 2019, pending issuance thereof, the making temporary borrowings for such a purpose, and that the below second reading be dispensed with.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Kadim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Mr. Pia.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to postpone agenda item 6.2 to a date certain, being the annual budget meeting for the town.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kadim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 6.3.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve an ordinance creating the position of Community and Economic Development Coordinator, 18-10.
Mr. Chairman, I would just suggest that that motion also include that the second reading of the ordinance as set forth in the agenda be dispensed with.
And I would like to include that as well, that the second reading of the above entitled ordinance be dispensed with, as copies thereof have been received by all council members, and the foregoing be and is hereby approved, effective 30 days from passage.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Harden. Is there any discussion? Hi, this was before us before. It went to ordinance. It's come back. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, it's an ordinance. Roll call vote.
Boy, I lost track. I was doing pretty good, huh? This one's an ordinance. Again, it's a roll call vote. Mr. Pia.
Aye.
Mr. Ticky.
Aye.
Mr. Kadim. Mr. Harden. Mr. Khan. Mr. Perillo. Mr. O'Brien. Mrs. Dancho.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The motion carries 9-0. Item 6.4.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve that the resolution regarding the salary for the position of Community and Economic Development Coordinator be approved, and resolved that the salary for the position of the Community and Economic Development Coordinator, as recommended by the mayor, to be between $20,000 and $30,000 per year, subject to future adjustments by the town council as authorized.
Mr. Town Attorney, I just noticed we tabled this last month, so the first motion should be that we take it off the table, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's all right, Mrs. Dancho, that's my error. My error.
I will
Motion to take it
change
off the
my
table.
motion to take item 6.4 off the table.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Mr. Pia. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. So item 6.4 is now on the table. Mrs. Dancho.
I would like to,
Is now off the table. Yes. I meant to say back on the agenda. Thank you. Back on the agenda. Mrs. Dancho.
it's off the table. I would make a motion to approve the salary for the position of Community and Economic Development Coordinator, and that the salary for the position of the Community and Economic Development Coordinator, as recommended by the mayor, to be between $20,000 and $30,000 per year, subject to future adjustments by the town council as authorized.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ticky. Is there any discussion? Hey, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 6.5.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 6.5 on the agenda.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Perillo. Mr. Urbanski, can you give us a brief explanation of this, please?
Mr. Chairman, if we can, I'd just like from the Town Attorney's Office to ask that the minutes reflect the fact that in your packet of materials for this meeting is a process suspense report, a multi-page document dated April 5th, 2018, prepared by the Stratford tax collector, and that should be noted that that is part of your packet, and that is the itemization for the dollar amounts set forth in the resolution itself, and that should be noted in the permanent record.
So noted. Thank you, Mr. Attorney. Mr. Wahlberg, I'm very sorry.
Yes. Basically, what we have before this council is an annual event that we need to get approval from this council to approve the to transfer into suspense tax bills that are considered, at this point, doubtful, but still out there to be collected, and we're pursuing it. I have to mention one thing, that there are foreclosed properties here that the town owns. Once the town owns the property, it has no longer to be on our receivable books, and a major portion of this is to remove that particular property.
Thank you, Mr. Wahlberg. Is there any further discussion or questions for Mr. Wahlberg? Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Chair. Jay, the total to be moved into suspense is about 1.4 million. And half of that is coming from one entity who owed about $50,000 a year in property taxes going back to 2012. So for 14 years or so, they were not paying their property taxes, and we've now foreclosed. So my question is, does the value of the property exceed the accrued value of the property taxes?
May I answer that? I'm Deborah Heim, a tax collector here in Stratford. That property, through the years, have been a contaminated property. It's been going back and forth through corporate counsel. We've been a long haul with that, with the attorneys and everything, and the attorneys finally decided to foreclose on the property. We're hoping that the town, through grants or whatever, can make that property valuable again. And
Thank you, Ms. Hine. I just learned from the mayor the location of the property. So
okay, thank you.
good.
Is there any further discussion or questions? Mr. Florek.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I just want to note from the town attorney's office, the fact that these accounts are being moved to the suspense list does not mean that we do not does not mean that we stop attempting to collect these taxes. In fact, there are many instances where payment plans are being entered into, or we're still pursuing them, but this is an accounting procedure only.
Right, and this is something that, as has been stated, happens on a yearly basis. Any further discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor of approving?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Okay, on to item 6.6.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item 6.6, the resolution for Center School, 55 Sutton Ave, abatement and demolition, and B, that the following reading be dispensed with.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. O'Brien. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kadim.
Thank you, Chair. As in the past, the uses of the space is important, and also the fact that we do need space for more children in the school system. I've been through the building. I was fortunate enough 2 years ago to be escorted from the roof to the floor, every part of the building. And yes, it is an old building, but it's structurally sound. So I just wanted to make it plain that I think it's a good, viable building. I think it should stay what it is. And we do need the space, else we wouldn't have all of these portable classrooms that are now permanent classrooms. So we do need a building. But just to make it plain, that's how I feel about it. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Khan, did you have a question or a discussion?
Thank you, Chairman Poisson. It's been a long debated issue. I agree that it's time to proceed with the demolition. We're not deciding tonight what will come after it, and I just ask that the community remain involved to keep their ideas and their inspirations in front of the town council and the mayor, so we can make sure town center is redeveloped in a way that makes us all proud. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor of the resolution?
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed.
Mr. Kadim and Mr. Tiki vote no. The chair votes yes, so the resolution carries 7-2. And again, it's been stated previously that this is all a state grant money. Correct, Mrs. Mayor? Thank you. Okay, item 6.7.
Yes, I make a motion to approve item 6.7, resolution regarding Sikorsky Main Gate intersection relocation.
Is there a second? Second by Mr. Pia. Is there any discussion? I would also like to note that this is also a 100% state grant, and we do not like to turn down free money.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Tiki.
I'd just like to recognize Public Works reviewed and approved with a favorable recommendation of this project, and I'd like to, thank Sikorsky's for being a big part of the project and moving forward with the town.
Yes, they've been very good neighbors, and they're picking up their fair share of the project also, it should be noted. Any other discussion? Mayor Hoydick also touched on this in her report, so I think it's very clear what the object of this is. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 6.8.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to approve item 6.8, resolution regarding Sikorsky Main Gate intersection relocation, construction administration, and inspection contract.
Is there a second?
Aye.
Second by Mr. Perillo. Any discussion? Mr. Khan.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question. This is a professional contract. I didn't see, do professional contracts need to go out for bid? RFP, for example?
No, Mr. Khan. If it's a professional services contract, it doesn't.
Any further discussion or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 6.9.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution regarding the ATV grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Tiki. Again, this is another grant. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 6.10.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the resolution regarding the Highway Safety Plan grant.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Kadim. Any discussion? Again, this is another grant. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 6.11.
Yes, Mr. Chair. I'd like to make a motion to approve item 6.11, resolution supporting an application and contract for the Connecticut Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Clean Vessel Act grant program for the operation and maintenance of the Stratford pump-out boat.
All right, is there a second? Second by Mr. Kadim. Again, this is another grant. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 7 is new business. 7.1 is appointments. 7.1.1 is library board.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make
Mr.
a
Pia.
motion I'd like to make a motion to appoint Beth DePonte to the library board as an appointed member of the library board to the vacated seat by Kim Kadim, expiring December 31st, 2018.
I believe Ms. DePonte was going into this seat from Judith Hample.
Excuse me. I'd like to correct my motion to appoint Ms. DePonte to the library board to the vacated seat of Ms. Judith Hample, expiring December 31st, 2019.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Pia. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Hardin. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. We cannot appoint anybody to the second spot there because we just received this letter of resignation this meeting, so we can fill that seat at our next meeting. So that one will need to be put on a table. Can I get a motion to put the second half of this library board appointment into the table?
I'll make a motion.
Mr. Pia, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Hardin. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. 7.1.2.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion that George Grum be appointed a member of the Stratford Housing Authority to the vacated seat of Thomas Malloy that expired on June 30th, 2019.
Is there a second? Second. Second by Mr. O'Brien. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. Item 8 is adjournment.
Mr. Chair, make a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn by Mr. Pia, second by Mr. Kadim. All in favor?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion carries 9-0. We are adjourned at 8:55. Thank you very much.